hustling on repeat. Work to Diamond Lee and D&G, you gotta feed the streets. I've been going through some shit, I don't get paid to spit these verses. I got auntie on my head, cause I've been ducking praise and worship. I see youngest put in hearses, I be really with the youth. Sometimes I locking on this life and don't have time to hit the boot. My brother just got locked again, he might be facing more than 10. I gotta look out for his kids, I spend my free time clocking in. Rest in peace to Dolph, I'm in the trenches with my Vans on. They gon' let me rock cause I got morals I'm gon' stand on. Welcome to the Ken and Coach Vaughn show. Man, it's good to be back again, man. How you doing, Ken?
Feeling blessed. Absolutely, my friend.
Yes. Last time we were on, I think in the first episode, you told me to share a little bit about myself before we went on. So I'm going to get you to do the same thing. Don't got to be long and drawn out, but tell the people a little bit about yourself.
King Ken, former college hooper, played ball for a couple of years at the small school called Bruton Parker. Other than that, advocate sports fan, advocate basketball fan. Been a part of the game since I've been 5 years old. And, of course, I have 2 kids I'm raising myself. Well, 3 actually, but 2 boys who I'm raising to, and they're going to be some future hoopers as well.
Okay. I'm looking forward to, send them to Coach Vaughn,
Oh, you already know.
I might got to come on down to Georgia, man.
No, I'm in Houston. You got to remember, I'm in Houston.
You in Houston. Oh, I would love to come to Houston.
Oh, yeah. Come through. The kid, they need to work on that jumper. My 2-year-old, he got a jumper, but my 4-year-old, he a freak athlete. So
Gotcha.
He scored like 6-7 goals a game in soccer. He's a beast.
Ooh, he cooking.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. Okay, so you got the boys, I got the girls. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I know.
I like that.
You got NBA, WNBA, the future. The future now.
That's all that matters, man. Building the future. Future
yes,
hoopers.
Sir.
But man, we're gonna hop right into it, man, because there's been a lot of energy and a lot of rumors circling the number 1 pick, mostly around Alex Sarr, who you didn't like anyway. But I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what we've been hearing in regards to the number 1 pick. You've been a Hawks fan. I'm pretty sure you're more tapped into that than I could ever be. So we're going to let you start on that topic and just give your thoughts on it, man. How you feel about the number 1 pick? Last time we talked, you didn't feel as great about it, but how you feel about it now?
I feel better about it. I mean, not better about it in the fact that I think the values went up like tremendously. I still don't believe the value has went up that much for it. It's just that I feel like this draft class has players that fit what fits Atlanta's MO. And I've always said sometimes you just need people that fit your MO. There's a thought process that when Atlanta had the number third overall pick, when they took Al Horford, that this was nowhere close to Greg Oden and Dwight and Kevin Durant. And maybe that was true for Kevin Durant. But like with Greg Oden, in terms of Al Horford, he was only the most winningest Atlanta Hawk of all time. He's only the one person that really had our franchise winning 50 games, constantly in the playoffs. Even our best year that we've had in Atlanta history was that 60-win team that we had with Al Horford at the helm. So, I think sometimes people are going to look at it from the standpoint, okay, who is the star? Like, who is that guy that's the face of the franchise? And maybe that guy is not in this draft. Or maybe that guy is in this draft, but it might not be who we draft at number 1. But that being said, I think the player that can get us to where we need to go is in this draft. And we'll talk about that. Okay.
I like that, man. You guys do a really good job picking bigs in the lottery. Even if they don't turn out to be superstars, you guys do a pretty good job. Here recently, you've done a pretty good job in regards to picking bigs or, tweeners that come in and have some type of impact on the league. So I'm confident in your evaluation this time around because, all 3 of your choices are forwards, tweeners, and bigs. So I think it's going to be interesting, man. I think
we're down to 2 at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice because according to, I think it's Evan Settery, he was saying that Alex Sarr actually kind of prefers Washington, and he's kind of been sabotaging his chances with Atlanta on purpose. and I just don't think they're gonna even take that chance.
He wasn't as high on their board as I think some people have made it out to be. Especially Atlanta fans. Atlanta fans really wanted him on the internet, and they saw the highlights and they saw that talent, and they were like, "Oh my God, how can you not want him, Ken? Do you not see what we see?"
Me too.
But for me, it was. I've told you this before. The highlights look really good, but when you watch the game, the possession by possession stuff, you realize offensively he is light years away. He is light years away, and it's going to take time.
Yeah, and I actually went back. Since we did that episode, I actually went back and just did more, intel on him and just learned a little bit more about him. And I actually changed my my scouting report like a little bit. And in that scouting report, I basically just talked about how he's limited. I watched the film, and when it comes to countering, that rawness that you talked about on offense, I saw it plain as day. He's very comfortable going right, but if you cut him off when he's going right, he doesn't really have the counter other than a spin back fadeaway. He doesn't really have the counters or even have the thought process to retreat dribble and get into a second attack. He's kind of limited in that. He's
not a natural hooper.
Yeah.
He's not a natural hooper. He's one of those. He's gonna be what you consider, and that's okay. That's okay. There's plenty of guys who've been drafted who weren't natural hoopers became stars in the NBA. So that's not a negative against them. It's just that he's young and he's not a natural hooper. Basketball doesn't come natural to him. He has a bunch of physical gifts, and it got him to this point.
Okay,
and he has some phenomenal gifts. He has his lateral quickness. I've never seen nobody 7 foot plus with that. It's rare. But overall, my fear about him offensively is I've never seen someone so raw really make it like that far. Like they're more of a perimeter player. Like we've seen guys like Jonathan Bender. We've seen guys like Marquise Chris. And none of those guys really took that leap when they got to the NBA. And I'm not saying that Sarr is not going to because they did it. Sarr may do it, but he's really far away. And there's a lot of risk involved. And it's actually a good place for him to go to Washington because there's not that like if he's a bust. I mean, Washington's been drafting busts for the last 5 years. Other than Kubele, they've been drafting busts. So I mean, they drafted Johnny Davis. I said that was a disastrous pick from the jump.
Yeah,
and so it's not a big deal for them to draft the bust. So it's okay that they go high reward, high risk. It's okay. They can do that. They can afford that decision. Atlanta could not afford that decision.
Yeah, and I actually think his thought process going into this draft shows a little bit of maturity, or at least his agent's being smart, because one of the reasons why he doesn't want to go to a place like Atlanta is he doesn't feel like he's going to have the offensive role that he anticipates having. And I totally get that. If you're going to reach your ceiling, you need to be a part. You need to have the reps, and you need to have the green light to be able to go out there and try things and get better. So I 100% understand that.
And not only that, Atlanta, you got to think about it too from this standpoint. The dude showed highlights of him being a big wing. Every time you watch him play, he wants to play like a big wing. Yeah. People in Atlanta, or just people in general, want to turn somebody because they see the tools and turn him into a player that he's not. But it's not. This is not 2K. In real life, people have styles. They have a way they want to play. They have a way they perceive themselves, and you can't change that. You just can't. Like when we had what's his name, Cam Reddish. We wanted Cam Reddish to play a certain style of basketball. Like Cam, just invest into this 3-and-D role. Just master that role. Own it. Cam never wanted to. Cam was like, I'm baby T-Mac. Let me cook. And he could never see himself in any other role. And it meant that he wasn't going to be that player that we may thought he could have been. So those things matter. You have to have I was listening to a press conference today with Angel Reese, and it was Teresa Weatherspoon was talking. And Teresa Weatherspoon was talking about Angels, what drives Angel. That every player has what drives them, right? And that's what ultimately gets what you get out of them is ultimately based on what drives them. And Angel just has this mentality that I want to do the best job I can for my team. I want to do what I already can do day one. I can rebound. I know I can play good defense. I know I can execute on a possession-by-possession basis. I'm just going to do what I do. and I'm gonna bring that intensity. I'm gonna bring that I'm gonna bring that fire. I'm gonna bring that leadership skills. And you can see how everybody on that team just hovers around Angel. It's not even a good team, but it's just Angel has that team looking like they're better than what they are. Yeah. And so I think sometimes we have to really put in perspective how much the non-visual things matter in basketball. And you understand as a Memphis Grizzlies fan, you guys are really invested into that. And I know that y'all kind of messed things up over the years, but in reality, y'all been the face of the NBA in terms of picking what do they call it? I think they call it ethos. Picking the right ethos.
Yeah.
And, I feel like his ethos. I was never sold. To be honest with you, I was never sold his ethos.
So I'm gonna let you keep cooking. So in terms of the other two guys, and Zachary Versace and Donovan Clingan, who's a very polarizing player in the Grizzlies community. But in terms of those two guys, where are you leaning?
I like both. I love both of them. What I love about Ricochet is, we can talk about the athleticism. We can talk about the little things that he doesn't have. But I keep telling you this. You know me. I'm big on off-ball players on the perimeter. I'm big on off-ball players, period, because they make you win. They help you win games. But in the perimeter, off-ball players who can score, who can do little minor things that me and you talked about in the previous episodes in terms of off-ball movements, smart short movement, small movement. He does small movement that Tony Snell used to do. That's hard to find. I mean, to be honest with you, if you get that kid, he's going to help your team win basketball games. And even if you look at the metrics, you see like he kind of was having like he was helping his team win. And on top of that, he was playing starter minutes. So he was actually, he was an impact player. Even though he wasn't a star, he wasn't Wemby, he was a very good role player, almost like a Tayshaun Prince. And
I definitely I don't want to interrupt you, but I definitely want to walk back what I said on episode 2 in regards to him potentially being Zaire Williams. I was totally wrong. His floor is definitely more Tayshaun Prince in that vein. I can give him that. I see it. I did more film study. I watched him a little bit more. He's a much better shooter than I gave him credit for. I would say he's probably even just a young Klay Thompson and not a current day Klay Thompson. That was kind of disrespectful by me. And I see the defense as well. I'm sold on the defense as well. So
the defense is beautiful. Yes, he does have some flaws, but we're talking about 19 years old. We don't see 19-year-olds playing defense like him. We really don't. And
not in the pro league either.
Not in the pro league. Not with the responsibilities. He has to hedge. He has to call out things. He has to call screens. He has to be in the right position. There's a lot of things he's asked to do that you don't ask 19-year-olds. Like I said, when you watch him play, you can't tell me you don't see Tayshaun Prince in some ways. Like, it's a lot of Tayshaun, just the high IQ, the mental acuity.
And I see the possession basketball to be able to be a long-standing player, even when it comes down to, let's say next year, Atlanta is in the playoffs. Hopefully, that's what we hope for.
And I think
I can see him playing. I can see him playing well. I can see him playing well in the playoffs.
I do too.
Right away.
I do too. I think he helps anybody he joins. I think if he joins Houston at number 3, or if he joins Atlanta at number 1, I think he's helping anyone he joins. And there's a reason why San Antonio's trying to trade 4 and 8 to get to him, because he helps you win games. And it's hard to find guys like him. I mean, everybody's trying to get to Jalen McDaniels. This guy can shoot. He plays off ball better than Jalen McDaniels. Now he might not have the defensive upside Jalen McDaniels has, but he has a high defensive upside. And I mean, people want to talk about his B spark and everything, because I think his B spark was I'm looking at it, was like 70, 50, 58, which wasn't great. I mean, it basically put him in the same tier with like Adam Morrison and Imani Bates, which wasn't great at all. But Jaden McDaniels had a 78.32, which is an 8-point difference, but that's not completely off. Yeah. So there's elements of him. Like I said, it's so much basketball IQ, it's so much mental acuity when it comes to Ricochet that you got to really put into the projection, which is why teams like him. Now I understand why fans don't like him. Fans, they don't see it. Fans aren't that. Fans
they want the flash. They want the flash. Yeah. They want the swagger. They want the oohs and ah moments when they watch the film. They want the speed, the athleticism. And I mean, honestly, if I was just, as being a basketball evaluator, sometimes it's even more comforting for me to see a player that's not that athletic be successful, because I know that years down the road when that athleticism fades, he has the potential to still be a productive player because that's not what he relies on.
Exactly. And that's why I'm such a fan of his. And I get it. There's even things you brought to my attention that I had to go back on, and there were things I had to mark them on. But the thing with it is, those things aren't really heavily limiters because he's an off-ball player. If he was more of an on-ball prospect, I couldn't mess with him. He would not be on my big board. He wouldn't even be in my top 60. But because he's an off-ball prospect, and he already has two prongs, and to be honest with you, the long one can be there if he gets stronger. Like we said, like Clay, if he gains about 10 pounds, he can be a vicious two guard in terms of offensive.
I see that.
Yeah, I'm high on Ricochet. I think he's clearly the number one prospect in this draft. If you're just going by young player with
upside.
Yeah, because his upside, it's not star, but I don't think people care about that because wings who can defend multiple positions, they can shoot threes, they can play off ball, they can make smart decisions. You don't have to worry about them on the court, and they constantly are adding value in terms of wins. Those guys are hard to find in the NBA. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if you see him in all these advanced matrix in a couple years and he's number one.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not going to happen with Jokic playing, but back in the days, it would have. Back in the days when players were more like Kobe, you could see guys like him show up number one on those metrics. But these days with Jokic, that'll never happen. Jokic is king of metrics.
Yeah. That big man being able to dribble, pass, shoot, you're not ever going to be able to top that efficiency. If they're efficient, those analytics are going to be crazy every time.
Exactly.
But,
Jokic is the GOAT of analytics.
Yes, but in terms of Donovan Clingan, I'm not as high on Donovan Clingan, but I definitely want to. People don't want to hear me talk about what I don't like about Donovan Clingan. I want to hear you talk about what you do like or what you do love about Donovan Clingan. And I know the number one thing for me is playmaking. The playmaking is number one for me, as well as the ability to block shots without having to jump extremely high in the air. I like those two. Those are his two elite traits, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely tell me how you feel about Donovan Clingan potentially going number one, because I think that he's going number one.
I don't think him going number one would be a good decision if Atlanta didn't have it, but it's because he's playing with Trae Young. If he's not playing with Trae Young, it's not even a good decision even for Atlanta. But what I like about Clingan is I'm higher on his offense than a lot of people. I said there's a lot of Vlade Divac in this game. It's a lot of Vlade Divac. I mean, the post up, we're talking about somebody who's like the 93 percentile. He's a really good post player when he's patient. He's a really good post player when he's patient. Also, he can pass out of most situations. We don't see too many DH. We see a lot of DHOs. We don't see too many short rolls. But I've heard he was killing short rolls when he was working out with Atlanta. And you got to remember it. He didn't have to do short rolls in UConn because of the style of play they had. They didn't need him to do that. People have to understand. UConn had four plus passers. UConn didn't really have shooters. So it's essentially, they really would prefer. They don't need him to do a short roll because you're not kicking out the 3-point shooter at UConn.
Yeah, any kind of work. He was very heliocentric in his position in that offense. They kind of ran like some souped up version of a flex offense where you kind of throw that ball to the middle and you kind of let that big man, see different actions, and you try to hit back cuts when you can, or you go into dribble handoffs.
They play like the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, that's how they play. Like the Sacramento Kings with Vlade. Yeah, that's how they play. Like a lot of DHOs. Basically, they ran that offense through Vlade and through C-Web. That offense was ran through Vlade and C-Web.
Yeah. I
mean, obviously, Bibby would make sure the structure. He made sure to get to the right place and the right set.
And getting out in transition, he did all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that offense was ran by Vlade, and it was a lot of high flex, a lot of decision making by Clingan. And they put a lot of decision making in his hands, believe it or not. And I actually thought they trusted him more than they trusted their guards.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the only. So my only thing with Klingin is I love everything about him in terms of like the auxiliary parts of his game, the passing, the shot blocking, even the IQ in regards to like where to position yourself, when to roll, when to pop, when to go into dribble handoffs, when to fake the dribble handoff and hit the back. Like he knows all of those little intricate parts of the game. But my only thing is we talked about I forgot what word you used, but you talked about the thing that people do with LeBron and Jordan, where it's like I guess you could say an aesthetic type thing. I feel like when he has the ball, he's kind of like lumbering it around. It's really loose and goofy looking, and like I think that's what like turns me off. But I just want him to get stronger.
He's not like Edie because he's upper body strength. He's upper body strength, all upper body, while Edie's all lower body. Well, Edie has some upper body strength, but you know the fluidity hurts Edie a lot.
Most of it is lower body.
This dude lower body is weak. His upper body is crazy strong. Like the dude is ridiculously strong. It's like I said, it's like Vlade. Because Vlade can put his hands behind Shaq, but once Shaq moved him with that caboose and he had that legs, boy, Vlade going back. Vlade was going way back, bro. Yeah. And so a lot of it comes down to I think his fluidity is not bad. I just think that his fluidity is primarily in space. And I consider his fluidity to be more like Lonzo Ball's, where in space he has good fluidity, but in traffic his fluidity is rough. And I also believe that also has to do with the fact that they have lower body issues. Think about it. All those lower body issue guys tend to have that type of issue. Yeah. And I mean, even with his finishing is not great for somebody who's like, he's not a great finisher. Like he's not Zach Edey. He's not anywhere close to like this great, phenomenal finisher.
You talk about lower body guys being that way. I think Jaren Jackson is definitely that way as well. In terms of like the lower body when he's in track, he looks very fluid in space, but in traffic it gets a little bit dicey. So.
It's dicey, and you see it with percentages when you watch Klinglin's game too. Exactly. And I think I don't think it's much big of an issue in Atlanta because he really does a phenomenal job window roll, window set screens, and on top of that, he's also a really good lob threat. So he's going to work with Trey. Trey's going to figure out, okay, you're kind of weak. So I need to kind of make sure that you're doing this. But he's really strong in the post. Like he's really strong in that upper body strength, like Sabonis, like the Damascus Sabonis. He can use that upper body. He can move people really well with it. He's really hard to guard with upper body, man. Like his upper body strength is really good. I would actually go so far to say that's his biggest strength is upper body strength. He's a good post player. He can pass out the post. He's also I feel like he has a good shooting form. I feel like my issue with him is his lower body. It messes up everything shooting wise. That's why the percentages from free throw line are low. That's why the 3-point percentage is low. But it's no surprise he's killing it in open workouts, open gyms, which kind of goes back to my point. He needs to really work on that lower body. He has stamina issues, but of course he plays hard, all out hard. I love that about him. I think his big strengths on defense is the fact that he has what I consider the people want to compare him to Gobert in the fact that how he controls the paint. But the player that he reminds me of a lot is actually the Dikembe Mutombo because he's phenomenal in that I consider that paint area defense. He's phenomenal at being able to understand and come quickly. He's even though he lacks movement fluidity, he has like explosiveness and he knows how to use it really well. And so he can block shots. He's not like Edie where he's like, when Edie raises his arm, his whole body slows down. Like it's just like he's slowing down. This guy can move his arms up fast, quick. I mean, he's I'm telling you, this kid is going to be hard to score in the paint on in the NBA. I think it's hard. I think it's going to be harder in the NBA to deal with than in college. I mean, you saw what he did with Illinois. He had them do shooting 3 for 25. They couldn't even deal with the paint, and he's just really difficult with that. And I think that's his strength. I think a lot of that also has to do with the upper body strength that he has. And the fact that he can really just physically, you bump into him upper body wise, and you're going back. He's never going back. Yeah. So that's really hard to deal with. And who else had that? The Dikembe Mutombo. Yeah. Dikembe had that. Okay. So I think defensively he may be a little overrated to some degree, but he's also very underrated.
Okay. I could definitely see that because I definitely what you said is I think he's definitely a good defender, maybe even great defender, but I don't think he's the generational defender that they're making him out. Not yet. There's some steps he has to take before he gets there.
You know, the movement, the defending in space is still rough.
Yeah.
I would so far to say Edie's
the fouling.
I would so far to say Edie's defending in space. I feel like a lot of his fouls in the interior come from the fact that he doesn't have the strongest legs.
Yeah.
So
when he takes that bump and he goes backwards, he takes it in the legs. Yeah. It looks like he's, it's the Jaren Jackson Jr. thing.
It's a lot of Jaren Jackson Jr. too. It's some legs, man. Legs are weak, and it's a problem for him. And I don't think you could sell me on the idea that he should be number one if it wasn't Atlanta. Yeah. And the reason why Atlanta is because the pick and roll stuff. They do it so much and they do so many point touches that he's going to score easy buckets.
And what he can do for Trey in tandem. Yeah. So like now you have a big man that you're comfortable throwing the ball to, and now Trey can run off 3-4 pin downs, come back and get the ball.
Well, Trey's never doing that.
I'm just saying now there's
he doesn't have to.
Opportunity.
Here's the thing though. With the guy being as good as he is at scoring in the paint, you might have to double team. You're going to have to double team in the NBA because if Atlanta realize because you know how they used to do Capella, they would go into the fourth quarter. Okay, y'all kill us with the pick and roll, but we're going to stop this. You know how we're going to stop this? We're going to sell out guarding the pick and roll, and you're going to have to beat us with Capella in the post. And we know you can't do that, and he can't even make free throws anyway. So go for it. Okay, well you do that with Klingler, that's not going to work out for you because Klingler he got a little bit of footwork. He can go left, right. He can finish with either hand. I mean,
and the free throws are getting a little bit better too.
He's a much better free throw shooter form wise, but like I said, I think the stamina gets to him.
Yeah,
I want to see him really work on this. Like, I mean, look, there are guys who have worked on it and become great free throw shooters, like because he has the form. Like, there's nothing when you watch him shoot, it doesn't look bad. Even when it just doesn't. I'm convinced that he could be a capable shooter in the NBA. I'm convinced that I've said this before. I think if Atlanta got him, Kessler, or even Edie, I said this. I think they're winning 10+ games next year because the center position was a disaster for the Hawks this year. It was a disaster. I mean, it was a disaster. I think Clint, if he goes into the right role, which is a backup role for him, he'll be fine. But you can't have two backups, him and Okongwu. You got to have a starter. And Atlanta getting Klingler to me is that.
Yeah. So you talked about Okongwu. Let's go to Okongwu first, and then we'll double back to the other questions that I got. But you talked about Okongwu. You talked about Clint Capella and DeAndre Hunter, who's also been in trade rumors. What's your thinking in regards to those auxiliary parts around trade and this potential number one pick?
My thoughts on Okongwu is he becomes critical if we get Klingler because we need another center, and I think we need a center who's a little bit more different than him, whereas Klingler is strong at off-ball defense and defending the paint and defending the interior and making sure that he can keep people out and communicate what's going on. We need somebody who can just guard them players. Like, hey, Giannis, I can guard you. Hey, Embiid, I can guard you. Because Klingler is not going to be able to guard them. He's going to get killed. Yeah. So, we need somebody who can guard those guys. And without question, Okongwu's one of the best in the NBA at it. That's what he does. So I still think we need to keep him. But I do know that there's a lot of interest, especially from New Orleans for him. So we'll see.
So in regards to Capella and Hunter, because I don't know why you guys are shopping. Is there something I don't know about DeAndre Hunter? He seems like a very decent player and consistent player in my understanding. So I'm like
the biggest DeAndre Hunter fan in the fan base. So they tell you talking to me is the wrong person because I love DeAndre Hunter. I fight with them all the time about DeAndre Hunter. My take on DeAndre is this. He does a lot of things to help winning. There's a reason why when he's out, we lose. But the issue comes down to it is Atlanta can get some cheap players now, wing players, to play off the roll off the bench. Like, there's even talk with, Zaire Williams coming to Atlanta for someone like Clint Capella. So Atlanta could get those cheap kind of guys.
That'd be a good fit for him.
Of course, we already know about the DeJounte Murray rumors, which is possibly DeJounte could be going to Miami, and there's been names of Jimmy Butler coming to Atlanta, or even Brandon Ingram. So of course, what does that mean? That means we would be paying like $60 million to two shoot small forwards. So DeAndre is more so on the block because of his contract more than actually his value to the team.
And how much is he being paid right now, DeAndre Hunter?
I think like 22.5 or something like that, which is kind of it's just high for him, to be honest with you. But
yeah, it is.
He got his contract when we thought we thought everything was going to go up, the cap was going to go up. But what happened was they created that second second apron, and that killed everything because second apron is like the second apron. Everybody's trying to the second apron. So yeah. So essentially, it made kind of DeAndre value a little too. His contract became a little too high, unfortunately.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is it's crazy because these two things are connected in regards to Capella with the Hawks and the Grizzlies. People are thinking that might be a swap that they might want to make. They're thinking Capella could be a good backup to whatever center the Grizzlies decide to get. And Zaire Williams, he's in a crowded wing room now, so might be good to ship him out as well.
Yeah, because I would imagine it'd be like Luke Kennard and Zaire Williams for Clint Capella.
Yeah,
it would be like something like that. And I don't know what you.
How much is Capella making? He's an aspiring.
Yeah, he's aspiring. He's making like $20 million though. He's aspiring.
Okay. I mean, I'll take that. I mean, him and Luke Kennard.
He had a really good. Like, to be honest with you, Clint was completely washed for half the season. Completely washed. But his last couple months, when they started, went back to, doing the drop coverage again, he was really good. Like he helped us. We were winning a lot of those games because of Clint, primarily Clint. So Clint actually, he really raised his value at the end of the year, and I think that's why a lot of teams are hovering around him. Because during the trade deadline, nobody wanted him.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the same thing with a few of our players on our team as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm coming around. We have a section of our fan base that's very bullish on a lot of these players that we're being rumored to be poking our nose in around. I think he would be a great backup. Mm-hmm. I think if you want to be a championship level team, I don't think he could be your starter right now. But you need a backup like him. That's experienced, that can come in, do what you need them to do. If Jaren is in foul trouble,
give him a more realistic contract, like 3 years, $30 million.
Exactly.
And then that's good. I think 3 years, $30 million would be really good for him. But because he doesn't need to be, he's not a $20 million or $15 million player no more.
Yeah, there's so many big men being rumored to be available right now that I'm scoffing at Clint Capella myself a little bit. But I definitely want to talk about that because you guys are gonna have to make some future moves. I love the Jimmy Butler. I love the Jimmy Butler fit in Atlanta. That would be a dream come true for y'all. The Brandon Ingram fit I like as well, but not as much as I like the Jimmy Butler fit.
I don't think. Even though Jimmy's older, it's Quinn Snyder. So it's still a sharp nosed coach, who wants it. And I think you putting Jimmy with Klingman, with JJ, with Bogey, Trey. Man, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
And,
so let's talk about those future moves. Because I definitely want you to get into the Hawks part of that. Let's talk about those future moves.
Well, there's some. Let's start with the minor moves. Right now, we have Garrison Matthews, who I think we told him in the exit interview he's probably not going to be back. But he's somebody that had he led the league in 3-point shooting, he qualified, and he's somebody that a lot of teams have called Atlanta about. So my belief is Garrison Matthews would be traded for a second-round pick in this year's draft. And there's a lot of people that want him. They see him as somebody that can be a part of their second unit. So he's definitely going to be a player that teams are going to covet, and he's going to definitely get a second-rounder, in my opinion, for a team. So Atlanta should probably have a day 2 pick, even though currently they have one pick, which is number 1. So I think that's the first move I think is going to make. That's going to happen, but I think that's going to happen probably more so closer to the draft. Other moves, obviously, Atlanta's going to have to make a decision between Trey and Murray. Murray's value slightly higher in the open market, but Atlanta wants Atlanta wants a massive overpay for Trey because for the obvious reasons, the money, how much money he makes to the franchise, and of course the NBA doesn't necessarily agree. So as of right now, I think we're seeing a situation where Murray's going to get traded. In fact, from just kind of insider connection I had that the Murray just found out that he is being shopped, and so I knew weeks ago when Atlanta became close on some of these deals, but Atlanta's really close. Like Atlanta's looking for like a stud for Murray. Yeah. They're looking for a stud, and it's like Ingram. It's Ingram's obviously, but the contract coming up, and of course, obviously Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy is health wise, right? That's why Miami's looking at getting rid of him. They can't trust him to stay healthy. I don't necessarily know if Atlanta's going to have that same issue, but I don't think Atlanta has the same fear. You know what I mean? It's just they want to give Trey that team that can win the championship.
And Trey can get a team to the playoffs. Like Jimmy, take your time. Like Trey can get a team to the playoffs.
I think he'll be able to get a team with Klingling to the playoffs, just because he needs a center who can really do a lot of the dirty work. And Atlanta doesn't have a center that can do dirty work. I mean, especially now that Capella's kind of washed in a sense. Even if he's not washed, he's not the player he used to be. He can't do the dirty work. Atlanta needs somebody that can just lock down this lane, make sure no one comes here to tear people from it. We're going to drop people into you, and you're going to shut them down. You're going to let them know the service ends here. And I think that Klingling could do that for about 28 minutes a game. I think if you ask Klingling to play 33 minutes a game, you're fooling yourself. But him and Okongwu split like 26 minutes, 24 minutes, something like that. I think that's a good thing for them.
Okay,
I think that's Atlanta's should be playing, which is Klingling plays 26 to 24 minutes, and Okongwu plays like 24 to 22 minutes, and they just split that and go as hard as they can for those minutes.
Yeah, I like that.
So Atlanta to me got options. I mean, they want to win. They don't have a draft pick next year, so they gotta win.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so they traded everything to like San Antonio, which is why trade San Antonio is not going to make sense, because a trade San Antonio means that Atlanta, San Antonio gets stronger, Atlanta gets weaker. So we're definitely going to see. I think Murray's going to either go to Miami or New Orleans. I think we'll see.
I like that Miami fit for Murray. I really think Miami has kind of been missing that player that can do the pick and roll, do the ISO thing, and just has a little bit more juice on the perimeter. Like I love Jimmy, but I don't know. I don't like that. Injuries. I mean, Miami could even pull off a Murray trade, and then they could turn around and pull off a Brandon Ingram trade too if they like. If they want, they have the pieces to do that. So
they kind of have some contracts, but it's going to be interesting to see what Miami does. But honestly, I think Miami's just trying to load up. They're trying to load up the stock so they can be like, if Giannis becomes available or somebody big becomes available next year, they'll have the trade pieces to do that. I think they're more so. But even so, they might just trade, because they were thinking about trying to get some draft picks. But you get someone like Jimmy, you get someone like Murray on a good contract. That's how Miami cooks, and he's a Miami culture guy too. Murray's 100% Heat culture guy. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely. I could see even them possibly probably being like a Jimmy Butler for Hunter and Murray, and I could see that being something that Miami really benefits from as well. So it could benefit both teams at some point, in my opinion. I think it's a little risky for Atlanta considering the age of Jimmy, but Jimmy's still a top 15 player when he's out there. Like he's a monster.
I agree. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a quick about 20 to 30 second break, and then on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about the Grizzlies. We'll hop into the Grizzlies side of things. So we'll take a quick 30-second break, then we'll be right back.